And a lot of people don't know that, but I watched the clerk write down on the sentencing paper. She was actually writing 20 years. I remember hearing my dad say, "What did you give my baby?" And I completely went out. That was God trying to tell me something is about to happen. This is a warning before your destruction, literally. A couple of months later is when I got incarcerated.
Welcome to Char's Visionary Path. I'm your host, Britany Oglesby, aka Char, and I am beyond excited that this moment is finally here. Welcome to our space of having raw, authentic, real, inspiring stories. All of that. I'm just beyond excited to be here. And so today I have my very first guest, my daughter, Miss Britany Oglesby. Welcome. Thank you so much. I'm honored to have you join me today as my first guest. So I'm really excited about that. And I really feel like your story is a story of resilience, a story of redemption, and a story of reinvention. And I feel like all of that has come from facing the challenges of being incarcerated, and you're having to rebuild your life, of course, and finding purpose again. And so I wanted to give you a space to tell your story. I felt like that was so important for me to do, and for me to have you as the very first guest, because this is a moment that I think we've been waiting for quite some time, because so many people have created narratives about or around what they think happened that caused your incarceration while you were incarcerated and since you've been home. And so I felt it was very, very important for you to be able to tell your story, because you have been very quiet about it, and that was on purpose. So again, welcome, welcome, and welcome again.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So what we're going to do is I want to start from the very beginning. I want to start from prior to your incarceration. Tell me a little bit about, I'm your mother. Of course, I know your life. But there are people that don't know your life. They don't know you. And so I just want to go back to the beginning, prior to any incarceration. Let's talk about who you were prior to your incarceration.
Prior to my incarceration, I was very all over the place, basically. I was in a marriage with my children's father. He was not an active father to a certain degree. So I was trying to find who I was, but I was also basically a single mother. I was lost. I was into drugs. I was numbing myself completely from things that were going on between me and my estranged husband. There was a lot of abuse, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. So I was in a very dark space prior to my incarceration.
So let's just talk about that a little bit. I know you said that you were lost and you went through a lot of physical abuse and a lot of mental. Let's talk about when did that start, though? And the reason why I want to touch on that is because so many women, we get into these relationships and we think we have a knight in shining armor, and then we learn who the person really is.
Absolutely.
And so tell me a little bit about that. What when you first met him, who was he to you? Who did he portray himself to be to you?
Well, I met him at the age of 13. My dad had gotten into a little situation, or a big situation, however you want to magnify it. And I felt in that moment that it was the closeness that we had as a family, all of that shattered in a day. I literally can remember my dad coming into the house hugging us and looking at us and saying, I'll be back, but didn't come back for, 15 years. So I was angry. I was angry at 13, and my kid's father came in like, I'm going to save the day. I'm going to save the day. I'm gonna show you everything that you haven't seen before. Because I was very sheltered as a child. I did not go all these different places that other people went. Nobody came over to our house to stay. So we were very, very sheltered children. So when I was exposed to Nick,
So are you trying to say I sheltered y'all?
very much so. Very much so.
I feel like I was protecting y'all.
No.
No? Oh, no.
And the reason I say that is because we didn't know. We was taught the essentials of how to live, but we were not given the reality of the world. The world is harsh. It was a shock to me. At 13, literally, my baby sister walked in, and my kid's father had me against the wall, choking me. So it started there. I chose to ignore it. As time went on, it progressed.
And a lot of women do that. A lot of women, I find, when they're in those type of relationships, and you were very young, and I just want to be clear, that was nothing that I knew about, that I approved.
Correct.
As a parent. I found out about this later on.
Right.
That you were even
Seeing him.
Yeah, seeing him or whatever the case may be. That's nothing that I would approve, because that's not how I was brought up. So I did not entertain that with my children. But I feel like a lot of women ignore the red flags.
Yeah, we turn our head.
And you start at an early age. So I feel like because you started at an early age ignoring the red flags, it became a part of, okay, I'm going to just
continue to
turn my head. Even though I see what I see, I'm going to still turn my head.
Absolutely. I think because I was so angry, I could not comprehend anything other than rage and hate and everything that comes along with rebellion. That's who I was at that age. I was so rebellious.
Yeah, you were very rebellious. But I always knew that there was something about you, and I would always tell you, that I expected more from you, because I knew there was more in you.
Right.
I knew that. But even though I tried so hard to bring the best out of you, you were so angry. You were such an angry young lady. You went against the grain. So we I think because we were very, very close, very close, until you started going through these stages of rebellion. And I didn't know how to handle that with my husband being incarcerated. So I had to be the mother, the father, and I didn't know how to handle all of that.
Right.
So it was a tug of war with you.
I didn't understand that growing up, but now having two children and raising two children, having a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, now I understand why some of the choices that you made for us were made. I did not realize a lot of things until, and this is just the truth, until I got incarcerated. When God sat me down and said, oh, mama can't save you, daddy can't save you, can't nobody save you but me.
That's exactly right. So since you're there, let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit. And I know you don't want to touch on it too, go too deep into a lot of, the other person, because there was other people that was involved in this, but let's just talk about that since we're already there. What were the moments that led up to your incarceration?
Prior to, I got incarcerated in
2019,
January 31st. Prior to that, March, I don't know if it was March the 20th or May the 20th, one of them, 2018, I actually was given a Xanax that was laced with fentanyl. And I don't remember anything other than driving my children, and they were in the vehicle, driving them home. I did not know what side of the road I was on. and all I was doing was praying. When I got there, I asked my daughter, how did we get in the house? And she said, Mommy, you opened the door. And maybe 5 minutes later, the person that I was with, that I was incarcerated with, walked in the house. He was the person that gave it to me. Then I was addicted to all kind of drugs, prescriptions, rather. I don't want to go too much into it, but my dad came in. I remember hearing my dad. That was one of the last things that I remember. I remember hearing my dad say, "What did you give my baby?" And I completely went out. So when I did wake back up, and the nurses came to me and talked to me, and they asked him to leave. So he stood outside of the door. And to me, that incident was God trying to wake me up. That was God trying to tell me something is about to happen. This is a warning before your destruction, literally. A couple of months later is when I got incarcerated. He was abusive as well.
More red flags. More red flags that you chose to ignore.
I chose to
I don't
ignore
know that you chose to ignore those, though. I think you've never been a child that was afraid of anyone. You never was that person. I never had to worry about you. I never had, you always knew how to defend yourself. But there were moments that I felt like, because I was praying so hard, I knew that God was going to reveal some stuff, and that's what he did. But there were moments that I would come over there, and I would remember one in particular that I came over there to your house, and I asked you about feeling like you were held hostage in your own house.
And I was.
Yeah, and you looked at me with a lot of fear. You looked at me with a lot of fear, and you looked at him, that particular person. But I knew in that moment, okay, this is something going on here. It was something going on, and I knew you were very fearful. And I think you were more fearful than ignoring red flags. You were more fearful of your life. And I had never known you to be that way.
That was a different type of fear for me. That was because as you stated, it's not too many people in this world that can give me that type of fear. I've never been one. I've always been, strong in that manner. But I knew that a part of me knew that if I had opened my mouth, he was going to kill me and my children.
That's the way you felt, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. There was a lot of hidden things that was done. I chose not to speak on it because I felt like in that moment I was saving me and my children. So the truth didn't come out until after I got incarcerated, where I was free. I was free then to speak on whatever I felt.
And we're going to touch on that in just a second. But after you were incarcerated, was there a specific moment after that you realized that my life is about to change drastically? Did you ever have that moment of, okay, my life is never going to be the same?
Absolutely.
Because I'm facing some real stuff here.
I think for me, it didn't hit until my first bond hearing. I didn't know all of the charges. I was under the recollection of one particular charge, but then when I got to speak to my family, it was, this is bad. This is real bad. But I think in my mind too, because I had never been in trouble, that I was going to get a bond. I was going to be guaranteed a bond because I had never been in trouble. When I went in front of that judge and he said bond denied, and when I came back, I realized then, okay, this is gonna make me or break me, one of the two.
And mom and daddy can't save you. And
absolutely.
I tried so many times, but I knew that this was completely out of my hand. I knew that.
And more than anything, I wanted my parents to save me. But I knew that there was nothing else that y'all could do. There was no talking me out of it, talking nobody out of it. The system saw what they saw, and they moved off of that.
Yeah. And not only did they see what they saw, they built a case. Let's just be real.
Absolutely.
They built a very large case against you.
They did.
And I feel like as a mother, I know without a doubt, I was never in denial. I just didn't believe it. I was never in denial. I just didn't believe that my daughter, not the one that I raised, could have done a third of what they were saying that you were doing. So as a mother, I became very angry because I felt like they were painting this picture of my daughter that I knew. And I remember in one particular, because there was so many times I went up there to the sheriff department, but there was one time in particular, I remember looking at them and I said, "You don't know my daughter." I said, "I've been knowing my daughter for 30 whatever years it was at that time." I said, you're getting to know her. You don't know her." And so I was really, really angry with them. I was really angry with everybody. I really was.
But I also wanted you to let that anger go. And I remember that conversation on the phone where we talked about the night that I got arrested. And I told you it's okay. I'm free. I'm free from it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because that was one of my next. I wanted to talk about that a little bit more. Take us to the moment that you were arrested. When you were arrested on, I'll never forget, January 31st, 2019. When you were arrested that day, what did you feel in that moment that you were being arrested, that they put those handcuffs on you? What did you feel in that moment?
Freedom.
Yeah. And what made you feel like you were free?
The separation from me and that person. Because every chance that I tried to leave, there was always something. There was always something, whether it was embedded in my head with fear or just him just saying no. Like, this is not, I love you to death. It's going to be me and you forever, or you're going to die. It's just plain and simple. Wow. So me being in those handcuffs, I did not resist. I didn't say a word. I put my hands behind my back and I got in the car.
Because you really felt like you were free.
I really felt that way.
At this moment, I'm free. My children are free. Because my children are going with my mom and my dad. And
my children went through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember, they did. Because I remember some things that Aria, the youngest one, would tell me. And she was very close. She was very close. She kept a lot of stuff, kept a lot of things in. But once she felt like she was comfortable
and safe,
that's the word we want to use, that she was safe with her Gigi and her Papa. When she knew she was safe, then I never forget, I made a promise to them. I made it specifically to her, because she and I were in the car one day and she began to tell me certain things that had happened. And I made a promise to her that I would allow no one else to ever hurt them again. I made that promise and I kept that promise. That was important to me, that they felt safe. Because I remember, like, sometimes with things that we were going through, like threats and things, all of those things, they were afraid. They were afraid. I was afraid for them. But I knew that I kept that promise that I would let nobody hurt them. Like, I was so protective of them. I didn't even want them to go outside. I didn't want any of that, because I didn't want anything to happen to them. Right. I knew that my husband would protect me. I knew that without a doubt. But I still felt like I needed to protect your kids, because that's the promise that I made to them. And I knew that they had been through so much. And that's why I really just wanted to protect them.
I think a lot of people look at the whole situation with one mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody has created their own narrative. Why she did this, or why he did this, and this, he ain't do this and he ain't do that. But then there's the center of it all, and it's the truth.
And that's what I always say, is your side, his side, and the truth.
Absolutely.
And God knows whatever the truth is, it always prevails itself. God always reveals it. And I feel like that's what happened in this case. But I want to say this, that many people, they experience a defining moment. They like that. I'm going to say that aha moment when you realize, when you're facing these defining moments and you're realizing that things are kind of spiraling out of control. Did you have that moment that you felt like, okay, this is getting out of control?
Yeah.
Was it before or after incarceration?
Before.
Before. Did you
Some of
not
the
have it
time-
when you were incarcerated too?
Did I not have what?
Like you still feeling like the moments when you were being denied for bond. To me, those are defining moments that say, okay, I feel like this is spinning out of control too, because I can't control this. So that's when you can't control something, it's pretty much spiraling out of control.
Yeah, I felt that way before and after. Before, I knew the depths of what was going on. And I'm not speaking on the charges,
Right.
but I knew the depths of what it was. It wasn't me doing this with my own will. So, of course, I felt like it was spiraling out of control. And I wanted so many times to say, can somebody please save me?
Yeah.
But I knew that if I opened my mouth, it was over and done with.
Yeah.
I did not want to put myself in put my family in a situation where they had to bury me and my children. A lot of people don't understand why I did what I did, but I did it because I was protecting them.
Yeah.
I was protecting my children. And even with me being out, when I did be in jail, when I was in jail or in prison, I still had this thing where I wanted to protect them. I didn't want nobody to say nothing to them or nothing of that. I just wanted to protect them, even still being away. Like, even though I knew, this is bad. It's real bad. So I think I just got to a place of acceptance.
You accepted being.
I accepted my fate. Whatever was coming to me, I accepted it. There was a place in me in the very, very beginning, and I was in the county 3.5 years, but I think my second year is when I really started to accept, like, okay.
Because I was going to ask you, what was the hardest part of you adjusting to prison life? Or we say prison, but you spent the majority of your time right here. It was right in the county jail, and we're gonna get to the sentencing part of it because it's you.
I'm telling you now. A lot of people say it. County time is the hardest time.
Okay.
That was the hardest time for me because your life is up and down, and it's in the hands of them.
Yeah.
You have no say so, literally.
So you felt a sense of freedom once you moved you transitioned from the county into the system.
Yeah, I was ready to go. Let's go get this sentence over with so I can come on home.
So since you were talking about the sentence, let me ask you, take us to the moment that you heard the sentence. When you were sentenced by the judge, what was going through your mind when you first heard what he told you?
Okay.
And what did he tell you?
I was able to plead my case. And then he looked at me and said 20 years. And I remember turning around and looking at you.
Because I was the only one outside of the court system, the people in the court, that the judicial system. I was the only one that was in there. And when you turned around and you looked at me, what?
You were calm.
I was very calm. I felt a sense of calmness.
And it calmed me down because at that moment, I was thinking in my head, like, I can't be away from my kids for 20 years.
Yeah.
I can't do that to them.
I remember him saying that 20 years, but I didn't cry. I didn't do any of that until the crying part for me came a little bit later. But in that moment, when he said 20 years, I felt a sense of calmness for some reason. And I know that was nothing but the work of God. And I always say too, God put me in that place by myself for me to see
A miracle.
what he really, really would do. So my next question to you leading up to that part is, at what point after you were sentenced by the judge did you realize that this is about to be real, and that you said, God, I need you. I got to hear from you.
I felt like when I turned around and you were calm, it was a calmness before maybe per se the storm. But when I turned around and looked at you, you gave me that mother's instinct of it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
So when I turned back around, I watched the clerk, and a lot of people don't know that, but I watched the clerk write down on the sentencing paper. She was actually writing 20 years. My lawyer actually grabbed the paper from her at the end, and she let me see it while we were standing at the podium.
But then what happened? What let you know that God had not forgotten you?
Literally within 3 to 5 minutes of all of him sentencing me to 20 years, I was given 5 years.
Because when you after you were given that sentence, I remember after you were given that sentence, that particular DA, he stood up, and he stood up on your behalf.
He did.
And so to me, that let you know that God said, okay, I told you I got this. I really do have it.
I really feel like God wanted me to have a sense of knowing what a real miracle looks like. I also feel like he wanted me to completely understand that when you fall on your knees and you pray for something, you pray wholeheartedly and you leave it there and take your hands out of it, that he'll hear you.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a very, very defining moment for me.
And that's very true, because even through the process, I kept trying to put my hand on it and kept trying to save you. And I was mad with the attorney. It was just I was like on an emotional roller coaster. And I just know that God told me that if you keep your hand off of this, I promise you, everything is going to be okay. And I guess that's why, too, not I guess, but I just really feel like in that moment when I heard that 20 years, a mother probably would have just felt, just cried. But I literally had a sense of calmness through that process.
I don't know what I would have done if you was not there in that moment.
Yeah.
Because my mind was going so many different places, and all I could think about was how I felt when my dad left.
Yeah.
And though I have girls, so they are very attached. They were always attached to me. But me leaving them for that amount of time would have damaged me in more than one way.
Yeah.
But I thank God, and I tell everybody this, I thank God for the experience because it saved me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Was there, when you were incarcerated, what was the turning point for you? What was the moment that that you said, I have to change my life? I mean, I got to do things different. I got to make different decisions. I got to change and just watch who I have in my circle, all of these type of things.
I think that came on early.
Yeah.
That came on extremely early because naturally I don't have friends and all these different things that other people have going on. Literally, if you don't see me with my family, you don't see me with nobody. But it was also a moment of me realizing the type of man that I was choosing. And still to this day, I am battling with, why is this particular type of person coming to me in different forms?
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I had a conversation with you and I told you that because I remember you having, we need to address this. You had a mental breakdown while you were incarcerated. And they thought it was not real. Some comments were being made from the jail, from particular personnel, and they were saying that You were doing these things just to get out of the sentencing or whatever the case may be, and it was completely different
A mental
from that.
breakdown or me having to go anywhere dealing with mental illness was not gonna save me.
Yeah.
That was 4 life sentences that I was facing.
Yeah.
What was I gaining out of faking?
Yeah.
There was nothing that I was gaining. It wasn't gonna write my sentence off. It wasn't gonna shorten my sentence.
That's exactly right.
Nothing. None of the above.
All it was going to do is just prolong it a little bit.
That's it.
To have you to prepare you mentally for sentencing if you needed to.
Yeah,
I mean, not
and
sentencing, but trial if you needed to go to trial.
Yes, and even
That's all it was.
even if they would have found me incompetent, the thing is they would have sent me to the medical ward or the medical jail for females, and I would have did my sentence there. You can't cut time.
Yeah.
You can get a clemency, but you can't cut time for those type of charges. It is set in stone.
Yeah.
I wasn't gaining anything by faking a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
And anybody that know me know I have always struggled with
Yeah.
mental illness and the battling of things within myself.
And depression.
Anybody, yes, I have literally fought for a very long time to beat this depression that I have.
And I remember even speaking to you just a few weeks ago. I remember telling you that I felt like you needed the intense mental the therapy, the intense therapy, because I kept and I always say this, that God gives me discernment. I truly believe that. And I would always, when I see things or God gives them to me, I try to give them to my family or my children or whatever God wants me to do, I try to do it. And so at that moment, I remember I was having a conversation and I told you that I felt like you needed the intense therapy, the medical, not because you had to do it, that was a part of your probation, but because you needed more intense therapy, because I saw that the choices that you were making happened to be the same type of person in a different form, which was going to continue down a road of destruction. So I'm so glad that you really, really worked on that, and because I see the change. I really, really do.
I think within the last 2-3 months, and when I talk to my sister about it all the time, 2-3 months ago, I was in another rage. I hated the world. I had no reason to wake up in my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. It's me trying to figure out, okay, I got out of prison, but I'm coming home to nothing.
Yeah.
I'm having to start all the way back over.
And a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people that have been released from incarceration, they feel it because it's not easy. Yes, you're free from prison, but you're still battling. You're not free in the mind, because now you got to start all back over. You got to readjust. You have to reinvent. You got to revamp. You got to do all of these things, and they don't make it easy for you. They don't
make anything easy for you, and especially the type of charges that I had. So when they see that on paper, there's nothing we can do with this.
Yeah.
So, and I'm still not used to it.
Yeah.
Because prior to my sentence, I was working good jobs and was in school and college and stuff.
Yeah.
And I never had to deal with it. When I went and did an interview, I got the job. But now when I go to an interview, I have got no after no after no after no after no. And for the life of me, I can't understand. And maybe this is where my interest of criminal justice come in. But I don't understand for the life of me. You take a offender, you punish them for their crime, you throw them back out the door in the real world, and you say figure it out without committing another crime. If I can't get a job, how am I going to provide?
Yeah. And it's so ironic because I'm currently in school now, as you know. I go to, and my major is psychology. So right now I'm taking sociology in one of my classes, and we were studying about incarcerated people, and it was so mind blowing to me to see the statistics say that I think it was 72 or 73%
Yeah, it's
or
a
it might
very
have
high
been
percentage
75% of people that have been incarcerated.
that
They are
reoffend.
reoffended, and they reoffend and they go back into the system. And if we can just be real, the majority of them
Are black.
are black people, and
It's,
they're black men. They're
I feel
black
like the
men.
system is designed for it has some goodness in it, but I feel like it was designed to do more harm than to help. I feel like black people in general don't understand the stigmatism, or they don't understand what they don't understand what they are against in general. And if you're gonna be real about it, black people, we have it the worst. Dropping out in the streets, drugs, guns, everything that you can name up. And those are the offenses, and then when the system gets us, it swallows us up because we don't know what to do next.
Well, you know, that is a statistic.
It
That
is.
is, but here's my problem with that. We all have 24 hours in 7 days, 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yes, we have it a little bit harder. But to me, I've always been a person that had a vision. I've always been a dreamer. I've never allowed anything that because I've gone through a lot of things within my lifetime. They were challenging, very challenging for me. But I wasn't the person that decided to make all of the bad mistakes that would end up. And let me take that back. I have made mistakes years ago that may have put me in a predicament to put me incarcerated. But, God was great, grace and mercy. And I learned from that. So I feel like once you're put into a situation, I don't understand the reincarceration part of it, because you have to have somewhere in your mindset, you got to say, this is not what I want. And to me, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. You just got to want better. And that's the way I feel.
Absolutely.
And we know as black people, as African Americans, we know that it is harder for us, but it's up to you.
I was determined to, because before I even got in trouble, growing up, I've always said, I'm going to be a police officer. I'm going to be something in the criminal justice field.
Yeah.
So when I got incarcerated, it's like, oh God, how am I going to fix this? And I want to be in the criminal justice field. This is what I want to do with myself.
Yeah.
But I was determined not to be a statistic.
And we're going to touch on that in just a second. I want to go back, though, to your time inside the jail or the prison. What helped you with your time inside? Was it reading books? Was it, because I know that now there's very limited on what you can have, like, did they even get Bibles or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, because
they had to be ordered from.
Yeah, I had to order you the Bible.
But
what helped you with that?
Reading, writing, drawing, and some of the people. Literally, you become a family in there, especially with the amount of time that I was in there. So they already knew. I was there 3.5 years, so they already knew my personality. Like, you start to learn them, even when you're going through the rough parts of being incarcerated, because you're dealing with so many different spirits and so many different attitudes. And you learn how to maneuver while you're in there to make it out, because a lot of people go and don't come home.
Yeah, that's very true.
A lot of people do not come home.
They don't make it home.
I was one of the ones that did.
Yeah.
By the grace of God.
And I prayed for that every single night, because I don't think people really realize that when family members become incarcerated, the family is incarcerated.
Everybody around you.
Everybody around you. And I felt very much so incarcerated.
Yeah.
Because every move I made, I had to think about your children. I had to constantly, it was like under so much stress, worried about you and if you were okay, and fighting battles for you and all of these things. So it's very much so that we are also incarcerated. We're just not
physically behind
there, but mentally it's incarcerated.
And I told any and everybody, jail, prison, it takes a strong mind.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that because I feel like prison can break people. It really can, and I really kind of learned that going through the process with you. But it also, I can also say this, I feel like it can also build you up.
It did
It can,
both for me.
yeah, it can either break you or it can build you up. So how did you begin to transform yourself while you were on the inside?
I was determined that when I came home, whenever that was in my mind, because that happened in the county jail, but I was determined that I was not going to do what everybody else did.
Yeah, yeah,
I was going to use it for my benefit.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm using it for my benefit now because in May, I'll have my associate's degree in criminal justice. And I'm going to Georgia Southern in August. And I have a year and a half left for that to have my bachelor's.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting ready to ask you because I knew that you had some things that you were working on. And as we begin to wrap this up, I do want to ask you this question because some people may find it very, very strange that you are considered as a criminal, but yet you're continuing with your criminal justice degree. And that would make no sense to people. That being said, what made you feel like it was so important to you that you had to continue to get that? And then very briefly, let's talk about what happened just recently with someone inspiring you before we end this. Why was it so important for you?
It was important. For one, I feel like, and I just spoke with my sister about this, it is important for people to know their laws, the rights of a person in America, no matter what color you are. Know your constitutional laws. Know your rights when an officer pull you over. Know your rights when you're in an interrogation room. Know your rights in general, because it can save you. You don't know if it could save your children. Later on down the road, you just don't know. And I feel like me having the experience of being on the inside and to get to work on the outside with it is a connection. It's a ministry.
Okay.
It could save somebody. It could save an offender.
That's right. If you wanted to tell someone, if you want to tell them about their past mistakes, what would you say you wanted to tell someone who feels like their past mistakes will forever define them? What would you tell them?
It doesn't define you.
Okay. And you got a reminder of that.
Yeah, I was actually at work, and
we don't want to talk about where you work at because
but
you were helping someone.
Yeah, I was helping an officer where I work at, and it was his second time coming into the company, and he looked at me and he said, "You've been through a lot." And I'm looking like, huh? What? So then he was like, we started just talking about where I'm at in school and stuff, and just having casual conversation. And then he looks at me, he says, I've been locked up before. And I'm looking like, where is this going? And he was like, I did almost 10 years. So I'm really intrigued now. So I'm like, if you don't mind me asking, what for? He was like, for armed robbery.
Wow. An officer that has a previous record of armed robbery.
I looked at him and I just could not move. I got really, really teary-eyed. And I think he could sense it. So I walked behind, so he couldn't see me. And then after he got done with whatever he was doing, he called. He said, "Miss Britany." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Can you come around the counter for me?" I said, "Yes, sir. Give me just a second." He was like, so I walked out the door to where he was. And he grabbed me and he hugged me. And he kept saying, "It's not over. Don't give up."
Wow.
So I went to the bathroom. I was boohoo crying at that point. And he stops at the door before exiting and turn around. And he said, "You got this."
And that was a reminder. I just feel like that was a reminder God sent someone to remind you that, look at me, I'm an officer. Same thing that you want to do. I'm an officer and I have a criminal background. The exact same thing. Well, yours isn't an armed robbery.
No,
Your
it's not.
charges were dropped. Let's be clear on that. Those charges were dropped to lesser because people think that it's armed robbery and it's not. Those charges were dropped. But he had an armed robbery charge and he is an officer. That's clearly. And when you told me that, that was clear to me that that was nobody but God sending you a
Absolutely,
reminder.
because it was a battle that I had been battling all week, mentally, silently.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a form of God saying, "I hear you."
So it's okay. I hear your prayers. So a couple last thing. How can society do better with supporting people that are being released from incarceration?
Stop being so biased and prejudiced. Open the mind. You don't know why a person went through what they went through to get to where they're at. Open your mind a little bit. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel that way too. So what's next for you? I know you're working on a few things. What's next for you, and how can everybody connect with you?
I am working on my book. I have been doing it silently. I'm still doing it silently, but I'm working on my book. And then my social media is Britany Oglesby on Facebook, and I think it is Britany Oglesby on Instagram as well, and on TikTok. The book is going to be on Amazon.
Okay.
So I'm looking into doing that.
So we're going to be looking for that because we know it's going to be a good book. I know your story. I know your entire story. So I know it's going to be a bestseller. I believe that. I just want you to get to the point. And like I said, we are all dreamers. Every vision. This is why it's so important for anybody that sits on my couch to understand that everything starts with a dream. It starts with a vision. And I truly believe if you see it, speak it, and believe it, it will come to fruition, even when there are some detours that happen in our lives. So I just want to thank you, because your journey has been nothing short of amazing. And I just want you to know that I am so very proud of you. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story, because again, I felt like it was so important, because we decided, I only told from the mom's part, a portion. I couldn't speak for you. And there's still so much with the story. We just can't get it all in here right now. So, but again, I do want to thank you so much again. And I just wish you nothing but best, because I know God has some great, great things for you. And I hope that that our goal is to inspire someone.
Absolutely.
Our goal is to inspire a mom. Our goal is to inspire someone that has walked in the incarceration part of their life, and they're walking through, they're coming out on the other side, that you are certainly a testament of what God is able to do. So again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I am going to finally close this out and just say, for anyone that has a vision, that has a dream, I just want you to know that your past mistakes, they do not define you. Britany, our guest Britany today, she is a living testament. And I just really, really want to encourage you and just let you know to continue to see it, speak it, and believe it. And remember, your vision is not everybody's vision. God gave you a vision, just like he gave me this vision. He gave you a vision. Please don't allow anything that you go through in life to detour you from your vision if God gave you that vision. Please remember to follow me on all social media. All of my handle is the same. It is Chars_visionary_path. That is on Instagram. And then TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I am on Facebook. I'm on all social media. Chars Visionary Path. And please don't forget to follow Britany as well. Until next time, be good.